Welcome to the Dave Whitty Show. I'm your host, Dave Whitty. Back again for another episode, folks. Thanks again for everybody who's been tuning in. Took a little week off last week. Think I'm going to keep it that way for the rest of the summer. Getting a little busy here now, and I'm finding it a little more difficult to find the time here throughout the week. So just going to be banging out one of these every couple of weeks now, at least until the fall, and I'll get back into the swing of things. Got another great episode coming up this week. Very fortunate to have Nik Sexton join me, who is just an incredible dude. He's been living in Toronto for a number of years, has a really awesome story. He's been involved in so many cool projects. I mean, he's worked on the Rick Mercer Report and the Sara 22 Minutes, and on top of his own stuff. I mean, he's basically the brainchild behind the Donnie Dumphy stuff. All those videos, all those sketches, and especially the feature film How to Be Deadly. So we chatted a lot about that. We also chatted about his experience when he was down south in the U.S. for the election. Spent 8 weeks down there covering the U.S. election for this hour's 22 minutes, and really crazy stuff right in the middle of pandemic. Really cool. So big thanks to Nik for joining me. Make sure you do stick around for that one. Not too much going on in my world. Obviously in the last few weeks, everything's been a little bit busier. I've been playing a lot more. Did a gig a couple weeks ago with the Donnies at Shamrock City, Friday and Saturday night. Had the lovely Maria Cherwick filling in for us. She was awesome on the fiddle. And obviously a few little solo things here and there. I think the last time we spoke, the Leafs had been knocked out. Lots of hockey going on, since then, and lots of sports. I mean, been back into the Jays full time. Really fun to watch the Jays. Really young team. These guys got the bats going. They lost a heartbreaker last night when Whitty hit a home run in the bottom of the ninth to tie it up, and Boston ended up coming back. But really exciting team. Hoping that the management can put a few more arms in place to really keep that team pushing forward. It's been really fun to watch. I don't have a whole lot on the go this weekend. I'm actually going to take the weekend and probably head out around the bay and just enjoy the local Newfoundland scenery for a couple days. They did note today that Atlantic provinces are opening up to the bubble again, but June 23rd. So anybody who's Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, wants to come visit Newfoundland, you don't have to quarantine anymore. So really showing some signs of things picking back up. So really happy about that, I gotta say. Got my first vaccine. Looking like about 80% of the population right now in Newfoundland has their first dose. So that's really exciting, guys. If you haven't done it, make sure you do, so we can get things back in order. I'm not going to keep it too long on myself today. We had a great chat with Nik, and it was a little longer than most interviews, so I'm not going to push myself too much here, but make sure you stick around for Nik, and make sure you check out all the films that he was talking about. I mean, the Dumphy film is awesome, and the Me, Mom, and COVID is incredible. Really neat to watch. So with that being said, guys, going to flick it over to Nik Sexton. And I'd like to welcome Nik Sexton to the podcast. How you doing, Nik? Thanks for taking some time today, man, and joining. How's everything going?
I was going good, man. Thanks for having me. I didn't know that the little thing comes up and tells you it's being recorded.
That's a new feature. I know it's been catching me off guard the last few episodes, but it's like a recording in process. But anyways, thanks for hopping on today. Nik's joining me from Toronto today, where he lives. And how's everything going in Toronto, man? I mean, with COVID and stuff. I mean, are you guys still locked down? How's that been the last year or so?
It's really confusing. Like every day you're like, you sort of check how many case numbers there are, how many, what's going on outside. They just opened stores again, which to 15% capacity. So, it's very odd. I got to do a gravel pathway in my backyard, and I went into like the Portuguese place. They have like all the rocks and, sand and 8-inch gravel. There's all kinds of different things. And there's one customer's allowed in at the time. And I don't think he wanted to like talk to me very long about gravel when he's got 10 bodies outside.
Yeah, he's just trying to push bodies through. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's been crazy, man. Like we've been inside. I got two kids. They both go to school across the street from here. and they've been homeschooled for the last 6 months or so. It's crazy, and I haven't really sat on a patio or been inside a bar or anything, since November.
Yeah. Oh man, I know it's been such a weird year. Obviously, I know we were chatting a little bit beforehand, but it's definitely different. I mean, for Newfoundland and Toronto, I mean, just because of the population size, I mean, that makes such a huge difference, and it's definitely been challenging. I mean, I don't have any kids myself, but I can imagine that must have been just a whole another element to it, just making sure that they're okay and they probably kind of understand what's going on. And on top of that, trying to probably get their schoolwork done has definitely been a challenge.
Oh, it's really, it's a real pain in the ass. They're like, trying to get them up and motivated, like watching a child do gym class in the basement doing jumping jacks is not really like, physical exercise. If you ask me, it's tough. I mean, it was, I think we're the most lockdown city in the world. I think that's what I read somewhere, that like Toronto is the most lockdown city. And I don't like weigh in too heavy on whether it's right or wrong or whatnot, but it's a lot of time with each other.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. We've watched, I guess it's interesting. My kids, like, watching shows now, like my daughter got into Stranger Things,
Mhm.
and I check like, how's your school today? Oh, good. Yeah, really good. Right on. And I just went on like the Netflix, like user, like each user, what they have. And I'm like, oh, so it's since 9:00 and it's 3:00 now. You've watched 6 episodes of Stranger Things, and you did school at the same time. So it's easy to see that they're not really doing a lot, and then you got to sort of stay on top of them.
Well, I mean, that's funny, but it's kind of weird how you can kind of you can track that stuff nowadays. I mean, if that was us when we were their age, I'm assuming that nobody would really be able to keep such an eye on us. I don't know if they'd be able to do homeschool. They'd probably just give us books and say, go learn this. And I
Oh
mean,
no,
I don't know
no,
if it would ever be able to happen. You know what I mean?
no. You can no. When we were kids, man, God, I mean, I remember. I probably shouldn't say this. I remember my mom. I had a tutor for math in high school, and he'd tutor me for an hour, and she'd give him $15, and I'd walk him to his motorcycle, and then he'd buy a gram of weed off me. You know what I mean? Like, so the $15 would go back in my pocket. You could manipulate it way better back then. There's not tracking stuff, and I just found out that I could do that YouTube, that Netflix thing to see her Stranger Things or watch time.
Her watch time. Yeah,
I guess if I
exactly.
changed the password to Netflix, I would, devastate the entire home in a way. So yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Nick, on your Instagram, self-proclaimed writer, director, skateboarder, Newfoundlander.
Right.
Um, how have you been keeping busy over the last year? What have you been up to?
Geez, well, I guess when
Sure.
I was supposed to go to Tokyo when the pandemic first happened, I was supposed to go to Tokyo for the tickets booked, hotels booked for the Olympics, with my guy Mark Sakamoto, who's like a good friend of mine, and we were going to direct these and make these 16 little short pieces, kind of in the vein of Anthony Bourdain a little bit, like not so much about sports, but about how cool Tokyo is, and then pandemic came, so that was gone, and we're actually making them right now, and they're pretty cool. I must say, like we couldn't go to Tokyo, but we have some footage from there that CBC shot, and we've got a lot of connections there through our producers and stuff. So we're interviewing people in Tokyo, and we're still talking about how rad Tokyo is. I mean, if you think about Tokyo, I mean, just quickly, I know I got other things to talk about, but the population of Tokyo is basically all of Canada crammed into the island of Prince Edward Island. So you think about how dense, it's 36 million people, I think, in one city. It's so, yeah. So space is very, I just watched a video on space today that we're making, and it's just, it's wild. I mean, have you ever seen those hotels that are just like lodged in like those little bunkers? It's wild. So I did that, and then working on, I went to the States for This Hour's 22 Minutes. I for the U.S. election, which was really cool, which is probably, I was equally as excited as I was nervous about dying, or I attended a few too many Trump rallies, and then of course working on like a feature film that I've been wanting to make for almost the last 8 years, with my buddy Sean Dalton, who's the the former drummer of the Trues. So that's
right.
those are like, yeah, it's a real passion project of ours that we're hopefully going to make this year. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to talk about that, but I kind of wanted to start off with some of the earlier stuff, Nick, like, kind of back in St. John's. I know you grew up in, a skateboarding culture where you guys were filming each other. I mean, doing, different tricks and different clips and all kinds of different stuff. And, what kind of got you involved with that? Was that something, as a kid you were interested in, and then it kind of evolved and you just kept growing from there?
I think so. I think as a kid, like, I don't know, do you remember the first time you saw someone skateboard down the road, like what that felt like or what that was like? I remember for me, it was like, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to fucking do that. That, like, kind of defying gravity, kind of like, how do you do that? Like, it's, so that was that. When I first saw a skateboard, I was like, oh my God, I got to do that. So my grandfather bought me my first board when I was 7 from Canadian Tire. I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house. Like, my mom had me when she was 17. So I was very close to my grandparents. And I remember my grandfather bought me like the Canadian Tire board with the dragon on it. I don't think it was any brand. I think it was just a knockoff. And, used in the driveway at Ennis Avenue for like, a month or two, and it went away. And then never saw skateboarding again until like drove by like War Memorial downtown as a kid. And you see like all these people hanging out downtown at Harborside, and you're like, oh my God, what's going on here? And that was a real, like, I want to be part of that world. And my friend Patrick Ward, who's like, probably my oldest friend and my best friend to this day, is me and him got into it pretty heavy with a bunch of kind of like Elliot Dix really got me into it. He was big into skateboarding. There's a bunch of these crews. So once we got going, we eventually started hanging out downtown and became good friends with Joey Marr, who lived down the street from me. And I always admired Joey. It was one of those things where it's like became friends with your hero in a way. And to this day, he's still like a really good buddy. And we started skating, and not everybody had, no one had cell phones then. No one had video cameras even. So we saved up as like for a video camera. Then we started shooting it. And it wasn't until I met John Palsy that we started actually editing the videos and booking the premiere. So that was how the first video came to be. I had years of like all this footage. John Palsy was working at Free Ride back downtown at the time. He came to me and he was like, I heard you got all this footage. And I'm like, yeah, I got, and then he's like, well, we should make a video. Should put that into a video. And then we rented back then, like editing back then was, you rented NIFCO Edit Suite, like a hard drive. Put it in perspective, like a hard drive, like, this size, a SCSI drive, I think they used to call them, that had like 100 gigs in it, were like, I don't know, like $7,000 or something ridiculous like that. And you would go into NIFCO and you would rent this suite and you'd load up the hard drives with your footage. You'd edit on an Avid, and then you'd make your video in a week or two. And as soon as you were done making the video, that footage was blown off the hard drives because the next project was coming in, right? Gig space was so costly back then. So that's how we got into it. And it's funny, I was talking to someone the other day, Dave, about skateboarding being in the Olympics. And I was saying how
it's so cool.
It is. But then I was like thinking about like St. John's and how, Andy Wells was against skateboarding, the mayor Andy Wells at the time. And my mom, when I got my driver's license, my mom went to get, up to the lady, and she was paying for it. And she goes, you owes $300 in skateboarding tickets. and I was like, yeah. And so you think about that, skateboarding was illegal in St. John's under the Highway Traffic Act. Like, it was illegal. Like, skateboarding was a crime, and now it's an Olympic sport, which is kind of hilarious. You know what I mean? Like, it's everywhere you went. I mean, it was illegal. You would get kicked out everywhere you went. Nowadays, I go skateboarding downtown Toronto, and the security guard is half my age.
Right.
He's like, sir, would you mind? And it's just different tune. But, or the security guard used to skate now, you know what I mean? And he wants to like hop on and try something. Yeah.
No, it's definitely interesting. Yeah. Like you mentioned, it's how it kind of changes. And I mean, like, the culture was so like shunned upon, I guess. Like it was kind of like faux pas to be a skateboarder. I mean, which was probably why a lot of people progressed towards that, just because it was kind of like a standoffish way, I guess. And you kind of had your own group and your own gang, and that's kind of it was fun to be a part of that. With that, I mean, with the skateboarding videos, you guys, always manage to throw in a few like funny bits. There's always little skits in there and stuff like that. And I guess that's where motion came from, right?
Yeah, motion came from the first video, and yeah, we do a couple of sketches. We would actually do like John Palsey's idea. He's like, well, to pay for this editing space at NIFCO and rent the theater, we're going to need to sell commercials within the videos. So that's how we started doing ads for like Fred's. And I remember we had like a package plan, like 30-second commercial, $200, and we'd film it for you, and all that. So yeah, so we started selling ads within the videos and stuff, and I used to think, so a lot of us used to think like, oh God, we got to, these ads have to be in the videos and stuff. But that was just the way it was. I mean, 411 videos back then always had ads. It just so happened that ours weren't skateboarding; they were like, a record shop. But I look back on them quite fondly. Yeah, and I think another thing about skateboarding too that I never said is like, I was big into hockey. I was on all-star hockey team. I was into sports like that. I played soccer, all kinds of stuff. And all those sports, man, like I still love them and stuff, but like you got to go to a rink. You got to wait for your time slot. You got to like meet your friend at the, wherever you're at the tennis thing. You got a golf schedule appointment. You know what I mean? You got to be on the tee by this time. And with skateboarding, man, it was like there's a coach hockey had a coach yelling at you, some guy that like probably wished he had made it or had some sort of animosity. And the skateboarding was like literally this sport where you just open your door and bomb Pleasant Street. And you're, you know what I mean? Like anywhere you go, and you're your own coach. There's no one yelling at. I guess now that's changed because there's Olympics. But
yeah. But I mean, I think the culture around that and like you mentioned, being able to wake up and hop on your skateboard and go is very, very interesting. And I mean, the support I would imagine that you had amongst your friends and other people in the community who were skateboarding were essentially like coaches without being yelled at or being forced to be there. They wanted to help, or you wanted to help. And I'm sure you do that same thing. I see you all the time. You're skateboarding with your little guy. I mean, on your Instagram and stuff like that. I mean, that must feel pretty neat to be able to pass that down and to be able to do that with your son.
Yeah, no, it's like you don't want to push him or be that like, go coach, because and someone told me you don't want to tell anyone that has talent as a kid that they're talented because it might make them lazy and not try so hard. Mm-hmm. Which I think is kind of sound advice in a way. So I won't say like, oh my God, you're amazing, or like I'll just go, yeah, it's good, you know what I mean, or what or have fun, you know what I mean? Like I think that's the biggest thing is like have fun, don't push them too hard. But yeah, I mean, like skateboarders are a bit of an army, how they all get behind each other. Like, if you were trying to trick over a set of stairs, like, and you were coming close, everyone's like, oh my God, you got this, man, you got this. Like, it's really, I think that we were all each other's coaches in a way back then. And
yeah, no, very, very supportive. I mean, it's always been like that. Even the guys I grew up with who were always like, we were always skating when we were kids and stuff. And everybody was just always kind of, pumping your tires. Everyone just wanted to see everybody get better, whether it was, from the most advanced guys to the guys who were just learning how to ollie. I mean, it was just everybody wanted to see everybody push themselves a little bit farther, which was, I mean, so cool. I mean, just so vastly different than, like you had mentioned, than hockey, which, everybody, it all has its own place. Hockey, sports, basketball, tennis, golf, it all has its own place. But skateboarding is just such a supportive community, which I always found was really, really neat. I was asking Matt Cook about that too, who I know you're friends with, and you guys skate together a little bit too. So I was asking him about skateboarding and that culture, and especially in St. John's and stuff. And he mentioned all those exact same things. That it's just such a supportive community, which is, it's really nice, honestly.
Well, I should ask you, is it like that in the music industry in St. John's? It's like a lot of people push each other.
It is and it isn't. You know what I mean? There's definitely some I mean, I don't want to bury anyone here, but but I mean, there's definitely people out there who who got no interest in seeing you succeed. They're, people are in it for themselves because I think, Nick, honestly, a lot of that comes down to is there's a monetary value on it when it comes to with music, whereas you guys are skating for passion for the most part, unless you're sponsored and you're signed. Don't get me wrong, and there's a lot of places for that, but for the majority, people are just, you're skating for the pure pleasure of doing it and being out there and having fun with your buddies, and where what I'm doing is just has a monetary value on it. So I mean, if you take somebody's gig, man, somebody is pissed with you. You know what I mean? Like that's happened over the years. And right. But it's not all like that. I mean, more people are supportive than not. Everybody wants to see you succeed. You know what I mean? Everybody wants, especially as a Newfoundlander, especially if you're doing something original, I think people really, really appreciate, you know what I mean? If you can put original stuff on.
My daughter Ruby.
If you can put original stuff out, I mean, people are really behind you, and especially coming from Newfoundland, because everybody knows for yourself, everybody knows how difficult it is to kind of do things out of here just by being so far away, right?
Yeah. I remember too, like when I came to Toronto, and there's like when I was in my early 20s in skateboarding, there's people that are take it very seriously too. When you get into that sort of sponsored world, like I was never really part of that, like, amateur skateboarder sponsored, like, getting hooked up, going on tours. I wasn't that good. But I watched that from a distance, and I saw, like, I could see how, like, some people got pretty jealous of other people, or like, had to get the, everyone trying to get the best clip, or, that kind of stuff. I just think that I'm at an age now, like, I'm just so grateful to be still doing it. That I'm like really just really happy to be still out there until I physically can't, which I hope never happens.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you're still out there, man. I see you're still out there grinding, man. You're doing your thing.
Oh yeah. I got like, I'm hurting myself every time I go out, and it's not fun. Yeah. You see, my son has a giant, if he comes up, I'll show you a giant scab on his elbow.
I'm sure he wears it as a battle wound where you're probably actually hurting. Like he's like, yeah, and you're like,
no, he's pretty hurt. He's pretty hurt.
Okay.
No, he was both. Yeah.
And from the skateboarding, Nick, like, in the videos, as you guys were doing as you were younger, I mean, progressively moved into, filming sketches and stuff like that, which, kind of spawned Donnie Dumphy. I mean, if you're a Newfoundlander, Donnie Dumphy, these videos. I mean, they were massive when it first came out. I mean, you still see Leon around all the time, and you still see the odd sketch coming out, and it's really, really funny. But what kind of made you really kind of take that on full steam? Like, I mean, because when it picked up, it really picked up, right?
Yeah. What made me pick it up like full steam? I think we were doing the motion show. Like we were doing this, we were doing all these little sketches. So I had this little idea for like a little pilot, like had Donnie Dumphy, it had Speedo Chain Wallet Guy, it had a bunch of skateboarding stuff in there. And I had filmed Leon doing Donnie Dumphy, I think around before YouTube even came out. It was around 2005, 4-ish. And I just sat on the footage. We sat on the footage. We didn't do anything with it. And we would just play it at parties. We'd go to like parties, like we go to the bar in St. John's. I have my camera. We'd film or whatever. We just show people after the house after. We just show clips of Leon, and everyone would just die laughing. I would do the same in Toronto, and people wouldn't understand what he said. And I was thinking like, well, I guess I got to subtitle it for the world to understand. And
mm-hmm.
So we did the motion show, and definitely we found, like myself and Leon talked about it, but we'd found like the Dumphy stuff was really hitting, like people really took to it, and we just kept making more and more of those, and it just kept growing, and naturally just kept growing and growing like a yeast, like a sourdough starter. Anyway, it just grew and it took off. I mean, like we did the Legend of Donnie Dumphy, then we did the Dumphy Talks Baseball, then we did a bunch of those other ones we did, which was like Donnie Downtown, and then I think I was just sort of, YouTube was very new at the time. And it was
brand new. It was brand new.
Yeah.
I remember when that all happened, and I remember looking up videos on YouTube, and I just remember it being so early in that and being like, it's so, how come these I couldn't believe these videos were so accessible. And I remember that's right around the time when the Dumphy videos started coming out, and which it had to help in the cause just by being accessible on YouTube, you know?
Yeah. It was, and you're sort of studying the landscape of like, okay, what's going on? Like what's working, what's not in YouTube land. But I was also a big fan of like, you know, those Lonely Island guys, like the Andy Samberg guys. And there was another guy, I think there's another guy, I forget his name. He had Average Everyday Normal Guy or something.
John LaJoie.
Yeah, he was, and I remember like,
he's an actor. He's in a bunch of different shows. He was in that show about the fantasy football too. He's a guy from Montreal though, but yeah, John LaJoie is his name. Yeah, he was great, and I remember seeing like his music videos, going like, oh yeah, that's really good, and Sandberg's music videos, and I thought, you know, we should make a Dumphy. Like we always talk about him being this rapper, because every video up until then was just him promoing his rap albums, and we talked, myself and Ian Sanoban and Leon just talked about like how sick would it be if we actually dropped an album, like he actually had an album, and then we wrote Having a Time Together, and 2.3 million views on YouTube. Having a Time has.
Is it? Yeah, we haven't seen a dime of any sort of monetization or whatever you call it. Well, we didn't clear the rights for the Booka Boom photo or the Dune thing, or back then YouTube wasn't doing monetize. It was that was like way later. So all those things were just sort of putting it out there to get the next thing. But yeah, no, we wrote that, and we talked about, okay, so let's write the song. We wrote the song, and it was such a long process, Dave. Like we wrote it. Then I went back to Newfoundland. Adrian Sanoban got involved. He made the beat. Then we went to his basement. Leon recorded the song in the basement, sat on that for a bit, listened to it. Then like 4 months later, I flew back to Newfoundland again. We shot the music video. Then went back to Toronto, edited the music video. It was almost like an 8-month process just to do Having a Time. And then once that launched, I think it was Christmas around 2009. So that's probably almost that must be like 12 years ago now, I guess. We saw, okay, now we're going to record the whole album, and Ian and myself and Leon got cracking on doing that, and then we just put the whole thing out, and then that's where it spawned, and then we just said, okay, let's go all in on this for a while.
Yeah, no, and I definitely remember, you know, very, very well. Well, I was also working with Phil Sanoban at the time. I mean, we were shooting the Kitty video right around that same time that all that was coming out. So I was spending a bit of time in the Sanoban's basement as well when all that was kind of transpiring, you know what I mean? And I just remember it being so funny and just having a laugh, like, and just watching it all go down, because I mean, at 2009, I would have been 21. I was 21. So, yeah. So I was just really starting to record my own music then, and kind of just watching that process go down and seeing, you know, videos being filmed. And I just was really enthralled by that. I thought it was really, really neat. And to see the success from it, and just, you know what I mean? Like, I grew up like a huge Buddy Wass's name guy, brought like awesome Newfoundland humor to Newfoundland, and also did, obviously, don't get me wrong, a bunch of nostalgic work. I mean, credible musicians. You know, some of the songs they've written have you know, become anthems in Newfoundland. But man, these guys, they did sketches on stage every single night, which were so funny, you know what I mean? And I love that. So when Dumphy kind of came out, it kind of felt more me, because it was like, he's a bit skeetier, he's a bit rough around the edges, like, you know what I mean? Which is how we grew up. Like, that's it. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, that was really, really, really interesting. Where did the character for Donnie kind of come from? Was it something you created, or was it just somebody from the community kind of resembled that person, or was it just kind of a piece of all of those?
We get asked this question a lot, and I think the only answer I could really give to it is like, I had the outfit at my mom's house that, like, up in her attic. The wig was, I think Mary Walsh wore the wig in a movie called Violet. So if you actually look at the movie cover of Violet, you'll probably see the same wig. Everyone knows it's a wig now, but there was a while we didn't talk about that at first. And I met up with Leon. I told Leon the idea about this guy who has this, you know, I had all the names of the tracks, you know, Your Mother Had to Come and Child Support's Youngster Ain't Mine. And I sort of described like Leon had the dirt bike, and I'm like, okay, so this is the character, this is the outfit. How do you think he would sound? And then Leon just started talking. It was like, oh my God, that is perfect. And when he put the outfit on, it was like just so funny.
It just sealed it. Yeah, exactly.
It was like, this guy's amazing. And then it wasn't like we like went away. Like we literally, he put the outfit on, he pulled up, on the bike, stopped, says a line. And I'm like, okay, me and him, he had the bike, I had my skateboard. We went through downtown the entire day, just filming one-liners or little sections. And then so that was sort of exactly how it was created. And then we just kept growing it. Like, okay, we'd be sitting around at Nautical Nelly's talking about, okay, he needs a girlfriend. Who's his girlfriend? What does she do? And then we look over at the bar and there's Gina, and we go, hey, Gina, you look like the perfect, pretty Skeet girl that would be Donnie's girlfriend. You could do that, right? And I remember we went to get her the next day. She's like, I'll do it. And we're like, awesome. And we go to her house, her apartment the next day down around, Queens Road. And we're like, knocking, throwing rocks at her window. And she's like, she told us later she was hiding out and she didn't want to come out at all and do it. So eventually she did. And thank God she did. Yeah. But no, that was it. That was like, we just sort of blended our ideas together. I had the outfit, I had the wig, I had, the rap album background. He had the bike, he had the Skeety accent down really, really good. And it was just a combo of those two. So I think equally we created the character together.
Yeah, no, exactly. And as the character grew and the videos grew, I mean, it moved into a short, which was I think that came out in, was it 2012, right?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
And then there was also the full length, I mean, which was shot back here in Newfoundland. It's so funny. I mean, tons of cameos from all kinds of awesome people, within the province and abroad too as well. I mean, it was just so funny. Was that like something that you were kind of aiming for when you first started that, or did that kind of grow into that?
Yeah, I knew right away that I wanted to make a feature film, and to do it, I knew that I'd have to prove our chops in a short film. So we definitely we made the short. Short gets into like TIFF, got into like a section of the Cannes Film Festival, and then that allowed us to make the feature. So then we're going to make the feature, and I knew right from the get-go that working with Ed Rich, who's like you should have him on. Actually, he's an amazing writer and just a really he's a professional writer, and working with him developing the film and sort of making sure that we had like a real story within this and not just a bunch of jokes. But I knew right away that I wanted to have all the members of Cogco in it. I knew right away that I wanted to like pay some homage to those, to Andy and Greg and Kathy, Mary, and I really wanted to do that. So that was something I knew right away. If you look at the film is like, it's a hero's journey, I guess they call it. Like if you break it down, I think Vogler wrote about it. It's literally like, it's the same premise as like Skywalker and Star Wars. Like, he didn't want to go do the thing. And eventually he does the thing. Leon didn't want to enter the bike, the dirt bike challenge, but then his grandmother entered him. And he loves his grandmother. So he felt he had to do it. And then his girlfriend's at stake. So it is a hero's journey tucked into a ridiculous world that we came up with. I don't know. I mean, like I look back on that on How to Be Deadly. I watched it recently. The Motorcycle Film Festival played it, and I was a lot of funny moments, and I still really enjoyed a lot of moments and fond memories of making it.
What was the reaction to that film outside of Newfoundland?
We toured the movie across Canada with our distributor and through the theaters as well, through Cineplex. So we did like from basically, well, not the whole country, but we did like Alberta to Newfoundland across, and minus Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and it's funny because you'd watch the movie every night in the theater. We were in Fort McMurray, then we do Grand Prairie, Edmonton, Calgary, 4 days in a row. And you'd sit in a different theater every night with a different crowd. and you sort of take note in your mind of like what they would laugh at, what they wouldn't. And for the most part, there was a lot of expat Newfoundlanders.
Of course, yeah.
So they got the jokes, but it was interesting to see like, what people that weren't from Newfoundland, would laugh at, and because we make no qualms about it. Like it's unapologetically a Newfoundland comedy. Like you see a lot of stuff shot in Newfoundland, and I'm not knocking it. I love everything that gets shot there, but a lot of times they hold back on accents, or they hold back on showing Canadian money. It's American money because it might give that idea that you're in a small town America. And that's great because the Newfoundland is the most beautiful backdrop. I totally get that. But when we set out to make the film, we were like, okay, this is straight up St. John's. This is not like, we're not pretending it's somewhere else. We're going to own the world and the accents and the talking fast parts. So I think a lot of it they got, and a lot of stuff flies over their head too. Like, it's not. I almost want it to be we almost want it to be like a comedy that you discovered, like if you weren't from Newfoundland, like you found it. Like, I often like that when I'd find like, a British film or something that I was like, oh, I found that. So some British films I need to see subtitles for, or whatnot. But overall it was received very well. I mean, I still wish it would get on some sort of like Netflix platform for more people to see. Like right now it was on like Super Channel and other things, and it's on Apple as well, but it'd be great if it got on some kind of Netflix or Amazon thing where more of the world could see it. We never got an American distributor,
right?
And I'd love for folks in the States to be able to see it.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I always find that interesting it kind of happens with music too, especially if you're playing kind of Newfoundland folk music occasionally. Just the interactions that you get from people outside the province on how they, but I mean, like you mentioned, it was unapologetically Newfoundland humor, which I mean, it's just like Newfoundlanders are all in for that. Like, let's be honest, like, everybody is just soaking that up. Whereas it might be harder to pull that in for a mainland audience. But I mean, anybody who has been to the East Coast, I mean, I think if people from mainland Canada have even been to Halifax, they're going to relate to that kind of humor, and they're going to see that kind of genuine comedic charm that kind of comes from the East Coast. I think that definitely resonates with people all over. I mean, and I remember, a few years ago, playing here in St. John's when tourist season was obviously, before COVID and stuff like that. And you keep in touch with a lot of these people you meet over the years, and especially myself touring and stuff like that. I remember talking to people who had seen the film after they had been to Newfoundland. You know what I mean? They'd been in Newfoundland on vacation and obviously just fell in love with the place. They come here in the 2 of the nicest weeks of the year. They think it's like that, all year round, and everybody's just partying and loving it. And then, they go home and you're kind of keeping in touch, and they say, man, I just watched this Donnie Dumphy film. Like, have you heard of it? I'm like, of course I've heard of it. And they're like, it is so funny. And it's like, and one thing somebody said to me was that I'm not sure if I would not like it, but I mean, just not get a lot of the jokes. They would just find a hard time, getting the jokes is more right. And I mean, they were like, yeah, when we went home, man, we just fucking love this thing. Like, it's so funny. And they're like, oh, we can't wait to get back. And I mean, it's almost like a tourism piece in that sense,
It's funny because I've heard from our editor Miles, who I love, who's a huge part of the movie. He was on set for a lot of it. Miles Davern, he's an awesome guy. Him and Colin Kelday, who did the score. I think it was Colin. I think maybe it was Colin or Miles. They said someone they knew found the film, and they watched and they go, man, I really didn't like. What a bad movie! But I couldn't take my eyes off it and stop laughing. And
what a weird compliment.
Oh yeah, no, I'm fully game on, like, I didn't set out to make a complex comedy, or I wasn't we set out to make this wild world, and it wasn't to be taken seriously in the film world. You know what I mean? I don't think I'll make another How to Be Deadly again. Like, I sort of wanted this to be like based on the character and catered to the fans that we'd already made on YouTube. I didn't want to come out, and make something totally different than what they'd already seen.
Yeah, exactly.
It was very much already on brand of what we'd already sort of created with Happen to Time and stuff like that. So that was the world, and it wasn't going to change it just so that we could try to get some sort of credibility in the film world. Like that wasn't what we set out to do. But like, yeah, no, I think if you watch How to Be Deadly and you don't take it seriously, you just try to find the humor. And I think comedy is one of the hardest things to execute. And when you don't take it seriously and you're not trying to like, you're not trying to watch it and judge it and stuff. You just sort of take it in. I think you could have a good time with it as an experience.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to ask you about with the Dumphy stuff before we move on there is Jesse Stewart.
Oh yeah. Jesse. Yeah.
I know Jesse, like, I was kind of doing a little like background on you and some of the stuff that you had done. And I remember where this kind of happened. And I remember that video got posted up where he's just like sitting around a campfire and he's doing is it Cry Tunes?
Yeah, Cry Tunes, yeah. Cold beer, yeah.
It's like fucking 13 million views on that video, man. And didn't you guys get him in the studio after to record like a proper version or something like that?
Yeah, well, Ian Sadoban wrote Cold Beer, Cry Tunes, and it was on the first Dumphy album, and we did a video for it, and it did pretty good. But it was almost like I think Ian's equated it to like, oh, this is how this is how what it's like when Johnny Cash does your song and it's way better than
Right.
So not to compare ourselves to that level, that's a different level. But yeah, Jesse did this cover of our song, and it was incredible, and everyone knew how incredible it was. It was on Reddit, and it just blew up. And I think it actually had like more millions of views, but Jesse took it back from the guy from the campfire. It's the guy from the campfire posted it first. And it blew up that way. And then Jesse got it back and took ownership of it. Yeah. And we were in the middle of editing How to Be Deadly. And we thought, well, we talked to Jesse, over messages and stuff. And we're like, well, love what you did. And he just won a Trailer Park Boys contest to be on that show. So he was flying to Halifax from the West Coast. And we were in Toronto, myself and Ian, and we were doing the audio for and all the music and stuff for How to Be Deadly, or the score. Colin was doing the score, and Sebastian was doing the mixing. Sebastian and Brian. And anyways, we said, well, what if we got Jesse to come in, stop and overnight in Toronto on his way to do the Trailer Park Boys thing, record his version of Cold Beer, and then we put it in a movie. And we threw that idea past him. He's like, I'm in. And he did it. And it was great. I wasn't here for it. I can't remember. I think I was working out of town, and then Ian took it over. Ian went in and got it done. And it was like, he just met Jesse, and Jesse's very funny. And it's funny, Jesse sort of, people would say like, Jesse's like lived on the streets. He's jumped on trains. He's done all that stuff. And I remember Ian's like, yeah, man, I'll pick you up. You can stay at my place. Jesse's like, yeah, okay, I'll stay at your place for the first night. He goes, but then I'm going to sleep in the park the second night with my buddies. And he's like, okay, all right.
Okay.
Cool. And Ian's like, I'll pick you up 8:30 in the park, before the session. And they did, and they got it done. And it's really good. I mean, Jesse's, I think, I spent a lot of time with him and Ian after, in Ian's garage and stuff, watching him play, and I think Ian recorded a couple other songs, but I don't know if they've ever been released. But he's a super talent, that guy.
Yeah, no, I just thought that was such a kind of a neat spawn off of that whole thing that happened. I mean, it's just it's a campfire video, and it's incredible. I mean, it's just so much emotion in it, and just it completely changed the structure of the song. It's just you'd never even, almost besides the lyrics, you would never know that it's the same song but it's awesome. It really, really was. And I thought that was such just a cool little spin-off of that kind of thing. I mean,
the story behind that is that I think he's wearing construction boots. I think those are like a bunch of dudes he was working on a construction site with. They finished work, they went back to Buddy's place, got a fire going, a few beers, and he's like, oh, I'll play his song. And then that became the thing, and that's how it came to be.
That's crazy, man. And I mean, that's kind of the power of the internet right there. That kind of shows it, no doubt.
Well, you watch that video, man, and you look at him singing, and you see him. It's almost like he escapes his body.
His veins are coming out of his neck, man.
His eyes go to a place, and it's almost like he's possessed when he's playing. Like there's a couple of songs I watched, some original songs he wrote that I'm like, I would love to make a video for this someday. Like there's one song called Marauder. It's incredible, and I'm like, why aren't we making a video to Marauder? But he is a marauder. He's all over the place. He's hard to lock down.
Right. Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, it was a great experience with Jesse for sure.
Nick, you've been living in Toronto for 15 years. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, close to. Yeah, what is it? I think, geez, maybe even like 17, 18. I'm starting to get concerned where I've lived in Toronto more than Newfoundland. Right. So like, I guess I have to change. I have to say that I'm more of a Torontonian. Like I always forget my kids are essentially Torontonians.
Yeah, no, there's no essentially, they are.
I know. But I have this thing in my mind where they're still Newfoundlanders in my mind, but
yeah, that's right.
But I don't know. Yeah. That's just me wanting that.
I mean, throughout all that stuff, you've been working on some real neat stuff. I mean, you worked on Rick Mercer Report, I think right from the beginning of since its inception, I believe. And I mean, Canada's Worst Driver, I know you were an executive producer, I believe, on that. Is that right?
Associate producer on that.
Producer, sorry.
Yeah.
And more recently, this hour is 22 minutes. I mean, was that kind of the goal when you first moved to Toronto, was to kind of link up with some programs like that, or did it just kind of happen naturally? And is that kind of why you kind of stuck it out there?
No, I came here to go to film school at Humber. I got in and I thought like, oh, this is gonna be great. I'm going to film school. Didn't work out for me. I'm not the one you talk about film school with. I dropped out in the first 2 months. I just it was going to be a lot of debt for 3 years for something I didn't think I needed, and I decided to go start working in commercials and music videos and stuff. So I PA'd, changed garbage bags and buckets, and drove the U-Haul with all the stuff in it, and did all the schlep work that I had to do for about a year. And I did that. And then Rick Mercer was coming to Toronto to do the Rick Mercer Report. He was just him and Gerald were just finishing Made in Canada. And they called me in to be a PA on that show. So, it was still kind of lower tier, I guess, but it was with good people and people, I really liked, and they gave me the gig on the first season. And then eventually I became a researcher and then an associate producer on Mercer but I didn't expect to be there for 15 seasons. I thought like, oh, okay, this got like, a couple years. If you study the landscape of shows on CBC, it's not 15 seasons usually. So that was sort of the show that raised me in a way, was the Rick Mercer Report. And it was great because it's like, it was almost like a school semester. It was September to April. Mm-hmm. And you can go find other work in the summer, or you could try to chill, or whatever worked for you. But no, that really shaped my career, Rick Mercer. I owe those guys a deep thank you because they really showed me how to work, or especially working within comedy. I probably wouldn't have made How to Be Deadly like if it wasn't for those guys and stuff, and teaching me, and just like sitting around at read-throughs with like a lot of professionals, and just listening to how the jokes are delivered and how they're told. Like it more or less to find out how to not write a joke was listening to those guys talk. And sometimes I remember one of the guys I worked with there, a writer, he was like, I had written some sort of like, here's the sketch I wrote. He looked at it, he goes, all right, your first mistake is you got 2 puns right here. I said, yeah, what's wrong with that? He's like, you don't do puns. That's like rookie shit.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay. And then I didn't understand. Now years later, go, oh yeah, puns are kind of rookie shit, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a huge learning curve for me. That was great. And
I know, obviously, more recently you've been with 22 Minutes, and you were recently just down south of the border. I mean, you're covering, what is probably one of the biggest elections in our lifetime, in the US for that matter, especially during a pandemic. I mean, what was that experience like? How long were you down there?
Myself and Tom Stanley, who's a producer on Rick Mercer, and John Sturge, who's an old-time friend who's in the motion videos and is also cinematographer, an amazing guy, both amazing guys. Yeah, we were the team that they sent down to cover the U.S. election, and we were there for 8 weeks. We flew into Washington. We rented a minivan, and I think we drove to 44 cities in those 8 weeks. Like, we were just all over the place, and we couldn't fly because COVID. We had to stay, we had to sort of bubble together, stay in certain hotels that were like, COVID safe, or did some deep cleaning. It was wild. We got to Washington. Our camera stuff is missing on the first day. We have to wait for it to come the next morning. I'm calling a friend who works at Air Canada. Man, you got to make sure that camera's on. He's like, yes, man. He big favor, made sure we got it. And then the very first thing we shot was a rally in Pennsylvania, a Trump rally. So we're walking, thousands of people lined up to go see Trump supporters. And the first thing we hear is fake news. We're like, oh my God, this is going to be horrible.
Oh no.
And but no, it was it actually turned around, and like people were pretty respectful, and no, we never had any like altercations or anything. We just interviewed people and let them talk. Like, and they'd ask us what our political beliefs were. We just say we're Canadian. This is not our election. We're just here to cover your story and see how you feel about this. But it was wild, man. I mean, we saw in those 44 cities, in those 8 weeks, we saw a lot of things. Like you travel down from, the northern states, and you go down, and the coffee gets worse and the masks start coming off because people don't believe in COVID in some places. They're like, you one of them mask guys?
Oh my God.
Yeah, like, okay, yeah. So it was interesting, man. It was a real character study for me, in a lot of those places. But saw a lot of cities I probably never would have seen. Covered a lot of things. There was some real hope in Atlanta, Georgia. Like Georgia flipped to Democrat, which was and we went to some impoverished neighborhoods in Atlanta and interviewed people that had been in jail a lot of their life, young black men that never voted before, and they were getting out to vote. And that was like really, we felt that how empowering that was for them to get out to the polls and cast their ballot. Like that election really meant a lot to Americans. Like it was wild, the energy in state to state you go to.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I just had to be right in the middle of that, and once again, like I'm just on top of it being a pandemic where we're right in the heart of it too, man. Like it was right in the middle of it. I mean, that just must have been such a crazy experience to be involved in that, and also probably like, was it like a little, were you somewhat fearful at all? Like was the virus itself kind of scary? Like, I mean, because where people weren't probably using the same precautions that you had been accustomed to at home, Yeah,
I mean, definitely fearful. I mean, but we would make sure that like when we were with someone, we'd mask up. I was also doing sound, so I had a 12-foot boom mic, boom pole, and we would keep our distance. And we kept all the interviews and all the footage outside. We didn't go inside much. But no, we were fearful at first. I think by the end we were like, okay, I think if you take these measures, you can be safe, right? Anyone I interviewed that might have, got COVID or something, usually the story is that they were inside with someone. So we just took those measures into safe. But I mean, in terms of COVID, in terms of the election, on both sides, it felt like it was a matter of life or death, whether it was COVID or whether it was like their guy or not getting in, or their leader not getting in or getting in. I mean, if you interviewed Republicans in Florida, they're like, this, we obviously know the results now, but they're like, I will cry if Donald Trump doesn't get in, And
were you there for the final, like when the election was called?
Yeah, we were in Washington, and we kind of got a heads up. We knew that it wasn't going to be the night of. It was going to drag out for a few days. So we sort of knew that, and we were just sort of stalled in Washington, and we were filming interviews with people and stuff. And then I was at Freedom Plaza, which is, known to locals as Pulaski Park. And we were just having we had an off day. So we were just skateboarding with a bunch of guys I knew in Washington. And I heard a bunch of horns burping. I was like, what? Is burping a Newfoundland thing? I think it is.
I think it is, yeah.
I heard a bunch of horns burping, and Sturge did too. And we sort of looked at each other across the plaza because, Washington's a pretty Democrat state. And we're like, Biden won. Biden definitely won. And then all of a sudden, people are getting out of their cars, losing their minds, celebrating. It was pretty wild. And it was, There was like a real movement that day. I don't know. It was something I'll never forget.
Yeah, I bet must have been just a crazy experience. I mean, and something that not too many people probably will ever get to do. I mean, let alone travel during COVID. You know what I mean? To see 44 cities. I mean, during all that, when everybody was basically not even allowed to leave their house, let alone. But I mean, just to to kind of be in the middle of the election. I mean, and as a Canadian and as a Newfoundlander, it just must have been quite a sight to see.
Well, it's funny because you were down there and your Google Maps tells you where you've been now. Tells you like your timeline where you've been. And that's how I know it's 44 cities. It says 44 cities, and and I come back to Toronto and I'm in the biggest lockdown ever, and it goes 8 weeks later. It goes one city. It's like
one house,
one basement, one basement. Yeah. So that's how I knew. But it was a trip. I mean, looking back on it now, it was probably one of the best experiences of my life. At the time, you didn't know if you had a sore throat. You're like, is this it? Is this the night I get, wearing masks in hotels and in the lobbies and everywhere you go, not knowing, is this, like, how contagious is this thing, and how's this going to be? But no, it was looking back, it was one of the best things I've ever done. Yeah.
Speaking of COVID, I mean, obviously COVID is kind of been a highlight of a lot of these conversations that I've had, because I speak to a lot of artists and I speak to a lot of people who create things and probably haven't been able to do a whole lot of things. But I know one thing that you did is you were home last summer and you shot the short for Me, Mom, and COVID, which is a documentary that featured your grandmother and your aunt Edwina, which was really, really special, man. I got to say, it was something that I really enjoyed watching it. I shot you a message after and I just said, and I know a lot of people did. I think a lot of people were looking for things to watch. And I mean, it was real. It was a real documentary kind of thing. And it was special. I mean, was that something that, I mean, I guess you weren't planning on doing that, because forgive me if I'm wrong here, but I believe your grandmother passed away just before COVID had kind of happened, right? So it was like, that was kind of the issue there, was that, I mean, trying to plan the funeral and et cetera was right as COVID was really ramping up, right?
Yeah, COVID, my grandmother passed away in late February 2020, and they hadn't quite called it a world pandemic yet. So I was able to fly back, myself and my Uncle Gary, fly back from Toronto to Newfoundland, and we were able to have a goodbye for my grandmother at Calls, and then a few weeks later, the world shut down, and we were very lucky to get that sign off with her. But yeah, then a few months later, I'd been sort of working and penning, an outline for a film about my grandmother, because I was really close to my grandmother. I lived with her for quite a while, and we were very tight. And I was working on that, and I was sort of outlining this idea of making a biography on my grandmother. It was, and my mom came to me, Mary, and said, I got this idea for a documentary, and this through this CBC Relief Fund about Mom. Do you want to direct it? You can come down. It'd be a great time for us to work together. And I said, yeah. And then sort of sat on it for a few days. I said, let me think about like what it's about. And then, sat on it and talked to my partner, Kathy, and a few other people and that I trust. And I was like, and we just came up with like, Edwina is just like, the charm of the family and the center of the, one of the biggest parts of the family. So centering around her was kind of special. She helped raise me. So it was really a moment. I get put in this little category where I just make comedy videos. So I think everyone's always really like taken back when I make something that's a little more dramatic, and they're like, "But you're the guy that does the Dumphy thing. Why? What are you doing? What are you doing this thing?" But for me, that was like probably the most personal project it is the most personal project I've made to date, and it was the word gets used a lot. It was cathartic in a way, and it was fun to make. And my stepdad Nigel shot it and did a great job. So it was a real like family bonding experience. And I worked, and this editor Kirk Ramsey, who's who I worked with on Good People, he cut it, and between I found that flow of me and Kirk going back and forth on notes, was really really awesome. And yeah, man, I Me Mom and COVID was probably the most personal thing I've worked on to date. Like, it really, when you feel something and you cry when you're making it, because it's so personal. It's your grandmother
Mm-hmm.
and your family, and you're also nervous that, like, you make these projects with your family, someone might never talk to you again.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to make sure that you show people before it comes out, and that they sign off on it, that they're happy with it, that you interview all the right people, and that your talking points are sound, and you get them, and most importantly, you get the message across or the vision that you're trying to deliver. So I was very happy with how that turned out.
Yeah, no, it is. It's truly incredible. I mean, hats off to everybody who's definitely involved in that project. I'm sure it wasn't the easiest thing, obviously, especially after the passing of your grandmother. Trying to do that with COVID. I mean, I know you had to come home and quarantine for a little while beforehand.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, just hats off to kind of everybody who was involved in that. But one thing I wanted to ask you was, you mentioned you were kind of you'd done some like interviews of your grandmother beforehand. Like, what was it you were kind of trying to document in that sense?
My friend Mark Sakamoto wrote a book called Forgiveness. Mark is Japanese Canadian from Medicine Hat. And his book is about his grandparents. It's a love letter to his grandparents. And Me Mom and COVID is the love letter to my grandmother, my uncle, and my aunt. So Mark said to me, when he was talking to his grandmother Mitsui, he filmed like an interview with her before she passed away. And he didn't know, I don't think he knew he was writing the book then, but he thought, what a great thing to have for his children and his children's children. Like, imagine, Dave, you could just hit a hard drive or hit a button, and you could watch your great grandfather talk. How good it would be to have his story to camera, telling the story. So with that in mind, I went home when my grandmother was still pretty good, pretty sound state of mind. She always was pretty sound state of mind, but she was still in pretty good shape, like mentally and physically. And we sat around in her house for a couple hours, and I just put the camera on the table and had her, talk to me for 2 hours, I guess. And just recorded like you would in a podcast, like go from the beginning and, chronologically go through it. And she did. And she sort of told me her story. And I have that now on a hard drive, and I'll probably upload it to like a Vimeo link or something. And then my kids can have that for their kids, or whoever family wants to see it and know who their great great grandmother was. So it's almost a bit of a time capsule capture, and it was very useful. I didn't know how useful it would be in Me Mom and COVID. Like, I go watch pieces of that, and I go, oh, okay, I want to hit this story point, or I want to hit this this story point, and it was. And then, Edwina's in the background, mulling about, and she's like, what are you doing, Edwina? And so little things I'd like, oh, okay, so I want to hit that. And I recommend anyone who has a parent, a grandparent, we take time for granted and people for granted that, like, if you sit down with them, and if it's your phone or whatever it is, and you sort of like, just place it there and just talk to them and have that, because you might want that when you get older. And because we're not all here forever, and we want to have those, stories to like look back on. It's really a beautiful capture. And the important thing to do is make sure you back it up, because a lot of people, they take photos and videos on their phone, and they never back it up, right? Back it up, put it on a private Vimeo link, or put it on like a, whatever it is, and have that, and say, maybe it should be in your will. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, that was the essence of it, was to create a time capsule of my grandmother for all my family to have for the next generations. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, really, really neat, man. I just love that story. I thought it was, really well put together. And once again, I just think that everybody can kind of relate to that, in a sense that, everybody had a battle to deal with. And I mean, your family was no different, just like a lot of other families, and especially families that had to deal with, lost during the pandemic, where they, it was really, really hard for people. And one thing you really featured in that, I didn't even have this wrote down, but one thing I wanted to ask you, I just thought of it then, was like the calls cluster. I know that was a big part of that kind of thing, and kind of the backlash that those people received. What was your mindset kind of thinking about, putting that in it to speak about that?
That was really tricky, because I mean, I was in St. John's at the time filming the doc. Everyone was talking about, the calls cluster, and this was because it was the biggest outbreak, I think, in Canada at the time, was calls, that funeral home, which was where we buried my grandmother, like in February. And anyway, so everyone kept talking about this patient zero, and there's this patient zero, and this person posted on Facebook, if you were there, to like go, and to go get yourself tested. And then I started seeing like all the online, like, mob coming at people and being very cruel to them and stuff. So I talked to two ladies in the doc that were really awesome, and told us their story. And it was really tricky to approach that, and talk to them about it, because, they had to really put themselves out there. Right. And they were great. They told, they sent me, like, the messages. I couldn't put them all out there, but okay, so this, I got COVID, and then this person tells me that I'm never allowed to enter Newfoundland again, like, and starts telling me off, like, as if I purposely. And she did go through the process. She did at the time go through what the the 4 or 5 day quarantine Newfoundland recommended if you traveled there, and she wasn't feeling ill, and then for someone to, she's burying her father, and
she's grieving herself on top of it all.
Right. And then just this like influx of nasty messages, it was really disheartening. And I thought, if anything, to sort of tie the lines between my grandmother and this woman's story and calls, was that, like, this was something my grandmother never stood for during the AIDS pandemic, and or epidemic rather. And so I really wanted to tie those lines between it. I know for some it was difficult to sort of compare the two, but I thought there was valid comparisons in there, and I thought it'd be interesting to hear those ladies, Heidi and talk about her experience with it.
Yeah, no, and I think that once again, I think just a lot of people who I'd spoke to who had watched it kind of they definitely felt the same way, that they were very interested to see that kind of highlighted in that, and then yeah, to link the two for sure.
Yeah, and then there's a woman named Tina as well, who and she's the one that was sort of that blew it up on social media, saying that this place had it, and she was also sent nasty messages, even though she never tested positive for COVID. So it was just like armies of people coming at you, and you're here grieving a relative. And I think now those people that might have sent those messages will look back on that time and be like, "My God, that was terrible of us to." So
yeah, I know, and I'll be willing to bet that there's a lot of people who, feel that way about a lot of things over the last year, and now kind of looking back, I mean, it's I think it was a challenge for a lot of people to just to situate themselves and not, and especially with not knowing what's going on, or the severity of the illness, or the or everything, that the lockdowns that come with it, and the lack of people were losing jobs and not figuring out how to pay bills, and I mean, it's just a lot of stress. So I mean, yeah, very, very crazy story. Nick, I wanted to ask you about good people. I know I seen a little clip online there, and I didn't get a whole lot about it, but that's kind of why I wanted to ask you about it. I know you won a Canadian Screen Award for best writing. Is that right? Nominated. Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Beat out by Johnny Harrison, Still Standing.
Right. I remember seeing your post on that. Yeah. Right on. What was that about? Good people.
That was again hosted by Mark Sakamoto, a good buddy of mine, and it was basically a show trying to highlight Canadian problems and the people that are like really doing the heavy lifting, trying to get the work done, like whether it was homelessness, gun violence, recycling was one. Veterans. Yeah, we covered all kinds of topics in Canada. It was a lot of fun to make. Actually, it was a real. I want to say it was like meeting all these people was really inspiring to like people that take on like these topics as a lifelong commitment. But yeah, it was wild. It was great. So it was with Vice and CBC, and it was about a 2-year process to make those 5 episodes. They're on CBC Gem. You can watch them there.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask where we could watch them. So it was a five series.
It was a 5-episode series, yeah, and it was it was one of those strange collabs with. I don't think Vice and CBC had done a collaboration together before, but
right.
Nevertheless,
one last thing I wanted to ask you about is something you've been working on. I know you were mentioning it a little bit beforehand. You know, kind of a passion project of yours. You've been working on it for a number of years. Is Skeet. So what's going on with Skeet, and what's Skeet about?
That's a film I'm hoping to make in the next year or so, and it's with my good friend Sean Dalton, who's the former drummer of the Trews, who's also in How to Be Deadly. He's the waterbed scene, but Sean's an amazing talent. If anyone knows Sean, they know how brilliant he is and smart he is. So myself and Sean, I'm hoping to get down there. Nova Scotia has crazy restrictions right now. So I just did the application the other day to get into Nova Scotia to work with Sean on the last little sort of legs of the script. And there's an angle with the Syrian community as well. So in the film, it's there's an unlikely friendship between Sean's character and some Syrian refugees that live in Newfoundland, because it is the new Newfoundland now. You know, when we were back there trying to develop Skeet, we had a bunch of like, you know, pasty Irish guys beating each other up. That was the idea of the film, and we're like, this isn't like good. This isn't what we're not feeling this. And then we sort of found these like immigration in Newfoundland. I talked to my friend Ken Walsh, who's been a great help in researching this, and I'm going to meet with a couple members of the Syrian community and help them, or they're going to help me rather, make sure I get that story right and do some read-throughs and hopefully cast some members of the Syrian community. So still developing for the next few months, hoping to start shooting by the end of the year.
Oh, cool, man. Well, I'm looking forward to checking that out.
Yeah.
You're coming back to Newfoundland soon. You mentioned the other day, what's going on? You just coming home for a visit, or?
Well, to develop Skeet, you
right.
know, to try to get that going and meet up with people. But I went online to do the form, and it doesn't exist for July. So I hope it opens up in July like it says it's going to. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, is that what's going? Have you heard anything about the form? Can you help me out here or what?
No idea, man. Every day it seems like there's new news and it's changing. There's different shit going on, and I mean, It seems like I think yesterday I was like, it's like upwards on 80% of the population here has their first dose of the vaccine, which is really good numbers in my opinion. I think that's pretty good. Seems like case counts are really dropping. I mean, they had that little cluster that kind of happened out in the West Coast. But it looks like they've got that pretty much handled. So listen, if I was a betting man, I'd be willing to bet you'll be fine in July. I think that the government here wants to. I just don't think they can let too many businesses suffer here at this point, man. I mean, it's been a tough year and a half. I mean, they lost, like, this is a tourism place, Nick. You know that, man. A lot of places rely on the 4 or 5 months of tourism that we get here, the business that brings. I mean, that's how a lot of people survive through the winter, me included. Honestly, I'm one of those guys. That's how I've survived. And, it's been a challenging year, I think, for a lot of people. So I think the government is just kind of at this point, they got their hands tied, and they've got to let people fend for themselves at this point and really try to salvage somewhat of a tourism season out of it, because it's going to be a dark place, I think, if that doesn't happen. Just because, man, 2 years of no tourism, I mean, it's going to be tough for anybody here. Like you say, that's just how a lot of people survive, right?
Yeah. No, my aunt and uncle have an inn in Norris Point, and we talk about that quite a bit. I get it. I fully get it, and it's, you know, I think the timing's right, but if the timing's always right until it's not, so
Exactly.
But I mean, I never got the chance to interview you and ask you some questions. I mean, you got to gig in another tourist place in Mexico. I never got a chance to ask you about that because I always enjoy watching your stories from Mexico when Matt was down visiting you and you were there just doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've been doing that for I've done it for 9 years now in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, every winter. I mean, I missed it this year, and honestly, I've been thinking about it the last few weeks so hard. I'm like, I cannot wait to go back. I'm probably going to go for longer this year than I normally do. I'm just going to double it up. And my partner Taylor, she works from home. She can work from home. She's not right now, but she can work from home. So, I mean, she's planning on going to come down with me, and she'll still be able to work. I'll still be able to do my thing. You know what I mean? I'll still be able to pump out podcasts and do online stuff as much as I can from when I'm down there. And your background's
going to change. I think on your visual here is going to be different for when you're in Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, exactly. No, definitely looking forward to that. Honestly, I'm looking forward to just being able to travel, man, being able to plan something. I mean, that's a hard thing. It's not being able to plan anything. We've been very fortunate here, Nick, in Newfoundland. I mean,
oh yeah.
Last summer we were wide open here, man. It was, I mean, as long as you had your mask on, it was like wide open, just like it, like, the pedestrian mall is like George Street Festival for 2 months. Like, it's hilarious, right?
I enjoyed being there for those few months that I was there. It was like I was in a different world.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'm looking forward to the tourists coming back. I mean, that's always a fun part of Newfoundland is having the tourists go around with their little blue bottles and their umbrellas.
That's right. The blue bottles is the sure sign. What are the sure signs of a tourist in Newfoundland? Tilly hat,
umbrella, and sweater vest.
Sweater vest. Okay, so tell me this: how is a tourist in Newfoundland versus a tourist in Puerto Vallarta?
Well, no umbrellas because it's not rain in January, February, March.
Right.
The tourists in Puerto Vallarta are 65 plus.
Right. Different age bracket. Yeah.
Very different age bracket. Yeah.
They're not there for hikes.
No. They're not there for hikes and fish and chips. Exactly. But
yeah, right.
But that's me, man. That's kind of how it's always been, especially for the last 10 years. I work off the summer tourism industry basically in Newfoundland. And then I work off the winter tourism industry that happens in Puerto Vallarta, which is the very busy time for them. So, I mean, and in between those couple months, which is, September to say December, I'm usually trying to book a tour with the band where I can get across Canada or whatever, or get some gigs up along. And then by the time I get back, it's April. I mean, I got a month to probably chill. I might do a little bit my own kind of vacationing if I do something like that. And then it's right back into tourist season. So,
yeah, I've always been a fan of yours. I remember like when we did Lee's Palace together.
Yeah, man, remember that?
And you opened for you agreed to open for us, and we kept getting delayed for whatever reasons, wardrobe reasons or something. And I was like, "Can you do 10 more minutes?" You're like, "No problem, man. I kept it going." It was like,
well, like you had me booked for like I don't know, man, whatever, 25 minute set, half an hour set. I'm like, man, I'm used to doing 4 hours. Yeah, what do you need, man? Bump out a few more. Yeah, that was probably that was the biggest show I ever played, probably in Toronto during my time living there, because I mean, you got sold out Lee's Palace that night, which is a huge venue for Toronto. I mean, it was fucking massive.
That was a lot of fun. That was the height of it, I think, for sure.
I think I also did the show with you guys in St. John's too at Club One.
I believe you did. I mean, I was had lots of good times. Did you ever get to play Salmon Festival? I'm shocked that you haven't played a Salmon Festival. I guess they're done now. Are they?
Yeah, no, I never got to play Salmon Fest, and I don't think it exists anymore. I think it does, but it's more like a garden party now.
It's a secret part. Oh, okay, gotcha.
No, like where it's so dialed back. It's not the kind of excess that it once was, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I think so. Is there another thing going to replace it?
Man, once again, it's weird. I don't know. Like, I don't even think there's going to be a George Street Festival this year, obviously, with COVID. So it'd be interesting to kind of see how all that stuff. So I know they're doing the folk festival here, but it's like a dialed back version where they're doing smaller performances for 4 weekends in a row, which is pretty interesting. It's not the big folk fest that they normally would have, but I mean, it's I think they're doing I think it starts in a couple of weeks, and they have like, a Friday and Saturday night with different artists, and then for a month repeating kind of. I think they're doing that for Friday and Saturday nights. So be interesting to see. I know they're definitely going to be focused a lot more on local artists, which is really great, which they always do. Don't get me wrong. The Newfoundland Folk Society, they always really highlight the Newfoundland artists, no doubt. But you always get a few really interesting cats from abroad who come down and might headline or something like that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's it for me, man. I really appreciate it. I mean, Jesus, I've been taking your time all day. We've been on forever. I apologize for taking so long.
Oh, no worries. I got to go do a gravel path in my backyard. I got to go buy 20 bags of pea gravel from a shop up the street. So,
well, you get your hat on for it anyways.
I got my gravel hats here. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hey, I appreciate you taking the time, Nick. I mean, really nice catching up with you. I haven't chatted with you in a while, but I really appreciate you taking the time today. I know you're busy doing your thing, man. So thanks again.
My pleasure, man. No, it's been fun. I enjoyed it. I'll keep tuning in. Hopefully I'll see you in Puerto Vallarta sometime.
Either Puerto Vallarta or let me know when you get home, man. Love to catch up for a beer and shoot some bullshit for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, Nick. We'll catch up with you soon, man. Cheers.
All right. See you. Bye.
Huge thanks to Nik Sexton for joining me today. I had a great chat with Nick. Really, really appreciate him taking the time. I know he's a busy dude and he's got a couple young kids, and just, really, really appreciate him, like you say, taking the time, because I love hearing all that stuff. I mean, all the real cool stories about being down south, and I mean, doing the documentary about his grandmother, I mean, during COVID, just real crazy stuff. And I love chatting with him about the Dumphy stuff, because, it was a big part of, kind of pop culture in Newfoundland 10 years ago. It was incredible. It still is, but I mean, at the age of YouTube and it really, really crazy. So big thanks to Nik Sexton for joining me on that one. And make sure you do go online and check out those films, Me, Mom, and COVID, Good People, the Dumphy film, How to Be Deadly, and keep an eye out for his new projects that are coming out. So yeah, once again, thanks to Nick. Once again, guys, not too much going on with me. Still going to be beating around, playing tunes. If you want to find me, schedule's kind of up in the air right now, so make sure you do just follow me on all my social media, at Dave Whitty on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm always posting there about where you can find me. Looking right now like I got a fun Canada Day show at the Republic, which is going to be June 30th. I'll be there at 10 o'clock. Canada Day's the next day. So just really looking forward to that one. That's going to be a good laugh. And you can find me definitely on Sunday nights at Greensleeves there at around 6:30. So come on and join me if you can. I'll probably leave you there, guys. Once again, thanks. And, I'm going to keep these to 2 weeks now, or once every couple of weeks, at least for the summer. Just finding it a bit difficult with the gigs on the go and finding it hard to kind of keep up on it. Through the summer, it makes it a little difficult. So I'll be back again in the fall, of course, hopefully for 1 weeks. And but keep tuning in and keep sharing, guys. Really appreciate all the support I've been getting on the podcast. Been having a lot of fun doing it, and I've just been really enjoying chatting with people and getting interesting takes from different unique people all over the world, for that matter, especially Newfoundlanders with great stories. I don't have a whole lot to talk about my intros anymore now that the Leafs are gone. I'm sure you guys are probably be a little happier that I'm not going on about the Leafs for 7 or 8 minutes, but that's it. Gonna focus on baseball right now and go Jays go, and still watching still watching the hockey. I mean, I'm not much of a Habs hater. I'm a Leafs lover, so love to see Carey Price win one. I think he deserves it. It's probably not going to get too many opportunities like he has right now. They lost a tough one last night to Vegas, so we'll see what happens anyways. But that about does it for me, guys, from downtown St. John's, Newfoundland. I'm Dave Whitty. Peace.